Once upon a time, in a large modern metropolis, there was a group of people who were looking for something essential, but very hard to find with their busy schedules. It was love. With the frenetic pace of urban life, meeting someone special seemed like an impossible task. That's when a curious and intriguing solution emerged: speed dating. Imagine a room filled with small circles of chairs, each representing a brief opportunity to connect. For 4 minutes, man and woman would sit across from each other, chat, smile, and decide whether there was enough chemistry for a second date or not. The scenario played out several times between the years of 2002 and 2004, but before meeting their matches, participants had to answer a simple but revealing question: what are you looking for in a partner? Men were very clear. They wanted attractive, physically attractive women. Intelligence, ambition, or common interests were not as highly priorities for them. Women, on the other hand, stated that they sought a balanced partner with a slight preference for intelligence. They seemed to value a man with whom they could talk and connect on a deeper level. But would these initial desires reflect the choices made during their encounters? Well, in addition to sharing their own desires, participants also had to guess what their same-sex competitors were looking for. Here, the story began to show its first nuances. Men believed that their peers valued female beauty above all else, relegating characteristics such as ambition to a secondary role. On the other hand, women thought that their rivals were focused on finding attractive and ambitious men, while they themselves say they wanted something more balanced. There was then an interesting discrepancy. Women saw their competitors as more superficial people than they perceived themselves to be. When it came time to predict what the opposite sex valued, the accuracy was surprising. Women were right that men sought above all an attractive and physically attractive partner, and men, in turn, were nearly correct in guessing that women wanted a well-rounded man. But if the predictions were good, reality proved to be a little different. Because with a correlation of 0.80, that is, almost 80% of these women in this experiment had the man's beauty in first place as an indication of whether they liked him or not, while traits like sincerity and shared interests were consistently below men's. Sincerity, for example, was actually a 0.17, which was way below any other metric. These women didn't care whether or not these guys were being sincere. In fact, women say that they care more about appearances than men, who scored 0.77 in comparison. The only measurements where women seemed to score higher than men were both intelligence and ambition, where they were more than twice as likely to want men who were ambitious, while men didn't even care much about that. The problem is that there is a huge bias in this research. The bias would be exactly in the intention of the surveyee to engage with such people. That is, could the fact that these people were in this so-called speed dating have anything to do with these results? In other words, could these results be taken in general way to this is what women want, or could it just be this is what women want in short-term partners? After all, the dates only lasted 4 minutes. It is very difficult to get to know someone in that amount of time. And that's exactly what this research from 2022 was proposing to answer. Because when looking at the differences between a physically dominant man for short-term and long-term relationships, the researchers found that women preferred to affiliate with these men predominantly in the short term, but not so much in the long run. In the long run, men who were more humorous were far more preferable than the men who were physically dominant. But then the question remains, Do women like muscular men or not? Well, another study that evaluated 6 types of male bodies ranging from thin and skeletal to chubby discovered that, in short, women found brawny bodies, that is, extremely muscular, to be high in physical dominance, but at the same time these were also the highest in volatility and the lowest in commitment. That is, in addition to finding men with these bodies somewhat unstable, they thought that these were not very trustworthy men to maintain a long-term relationship. In fact, another study showed that the people were most likely to enjoy and to like extremely muscular men like Incredible Hulk are not women, but actually other men. And surprisingly, built and toned bodies were declared the most sexually desirable, despite also having low levels of commitment and high volatility. The skinny guys, on the other hand, were half and half in almost all of the traits, with the exception of physical dominance, perhaps suggesting that these women did not felt very safe physically with skinny men. And the chubby ones, well, they were the lowest in sexual desirability, but the highest in commitment. Now, whether that is a good or a bad thing, I'll leave it up to you to write in the comments. What do you think of all of this research? If you're a man, well, what's your body type? And if you are a woman, what is your favorite male type? And goodbye.